After my second year of college, I wanted to move into an apartment. I had basically no real friends to choose from, so I decided to try Craigslist. I made an ad for Housing Wanted, described myself, put a picture, because I found myself more drawn to messaging people I could actually see first, and my number for texting. I stated I was more interested in rooming with girls. I am a girl. This one guy messages me saying his name is Oliver and he has a nice apartment. The rent was really cheap, too cheap, and he said I could have the first month free. I considered it for a while because at the time I had no other good prospects. I talked to him a bit and added him on Facebook to chat over Messenger, so it was a bit faster. I regretted that pretty quickly because he started being super weird to me. He was a middle-aged looking guy. He talked about how he worked at a tattoo shop and could get me a job, prefacing it by saying that I could just sit and draw and that it always helped to have a pretty girl drawing at a tattoo shop. At one point, I complimented his dog and he said, "Thanks, she's the only woman in my life besides my mom." At this point, I obviously knew I wasn't going to move in with him, but for a bit, it was making me laugh, so I talked to him a bit longer. The conversation divulged into him essentially telling me he wanted me to be his girlfriend. I said no, and then he told me he'd pay me $3,000 to fly out to California with him to meet his family so they would think he had a girlfriend. When I said no, he kept begging me and telling me everyone thought he was a loser and all I'd have to do was hold his hand. Deleted and blocked him on Facebook. Then he began texting me, asking me to send him a picture of my boobs. He said, "Please, I've never seen 19-year-old boobs before. LOL." He continued badgering me despite me only replying once to say no and that I had a boyfriend. Sent me a picture of his dick by the end of it. Surprisingly, he apologized late that night and never did message me again. I was new to a big city and decided I didn't need my car anymore. I listed my car for sale, a 6-year-old Honda Accord. A normal, well-dressed man comes over to see it after a few phone calls about it. He's in his early 40s and his name is James. He's buying it for his daughter in college. I always have my guard up when dealing with strangers, but so far, James is personable and seems legitimate. He test drives it with me in it. He does a thorough inspection. He negotiates the price with me for a while. He asks me to hold the car for 2 days so he can get the money and come pick it up. I agree. A 2-day hold where I won't sell it to someone else. 2 days later, James follows up and we meet again, midday, a normal neighborhood in an urban city. James and I test drive the car one more time. He gave me a Chase Bank cashier's check, which I said was fine. I told him he needed to come to the bank with me to cash this check and to get the title notarized over to him. This is when he starts acting nervous. We're pulled over on the side of my street discussing this. James in the driver's seat and me as the passenger. I figured if he was going to steal my car, he would have 2 days earlier. Now, I'm fairly comfortable with him. He asked me to do one more car inspection with him, then we'd go to the bank. I agree, but I'm very set on doing the transaction at a bank. As we both get out to inspect the car again, he jumps back in and floors it as I try to get back in with him. He pulls away quicker than I can react, the passenger door wide open. I tried to run after him and then realized I was not as fast as a car. There are bystanders, and I hysterically ask someone to call 911. One guy does. I had my phone, but my adrenaline was through the roof and didn't even think of it. As I'm on a stranger's phone with dispatch, an undercover cop car with 2 officers pulls out of an alley 5 feet from me. I wave them down and hysterically explain my story. They tell me to hop in the back of their car, which I do. I implore them to hurry and we can catch this guy. He just drove off. I explained the car and plate and everything. They assured me that they would not go on a high-speed chase with me in the car, but would radio it to all surrounding officers, which they do. The guy gets away, and the officers drop me off at the police station to file a report. I file an insurance claim too, and am so mad at myself for letting this happen. I suppose it's better than if I was in the car with this guy, but I'm still mad. Of course, James's burner cell phone didn't work as soon as he had left. I go through insurance and their protocols to ensure I'm not committing fraud for about 3 months. The week I'm supposed to get paid, I get a call from the police. They found my car 3 states over. James was working with a partner in crime. Don't remember his name, let's call him Dickface. James stole the car and gave it to Dickface to sell, so it wasn't traceable back to James, and Dickface would have plausible deniability if he was ever questioned. Well, Dickface sold my car to an average Joe who actually did have a daughter in college who needed a car. The daughter tried to register her new car at the DMV and it came up as stolen. So the cops arranged for me, the average Joe, and Dickface, whose contact info average Joe had, as he paid him with a check and there was a paper trail, to meet with them at the station for a little chat. Dickface denies any involvement with James but agrees to give us the money back that average Joe paid him if he can just leave without any problems. We all agree to this. Average Joe and I say his daughter can keep the car and I'll take the money from Dickface. So eventually I got paid for my car, but this experience sucked balls and was very stressful. Since then, I have bought and sold cars on Craigslist again. So no lesson was learned. Except now I take a photo of the driver's license of all the people I interact with at the start. In college, my girlfriend at the time and I needed to find an apartment for only 1 semester, which was impossible to find affordably in a college town. We ended up looking on Craigslist and living in a 2BR with this guy. Let's call him Dirty Dan. Dirty Dan was in his early 30s. He was pretty much a stereotype nerd. Really tall and chubby, with a gross beard and really long gross hair, loved Dungeons and Dragons and video games and stuff like that. But he seemed nice, and he had a fully furnished apartment, and the rent was low. Dirty Dan became a terror to us. Here are some of his traits. His nice demeanor turned out to be the stereotypical nice guy behavior. He was low-key an asshole and thought that acting polite entitled him to female attention. He didn't go to school or work because he received Social Security for some undisclosed medical problem, which meant he never left the house, ever. Which would be one thing, but he never left the living room, despite having his large bedroom. He spent all of his time there, including constantly falling asleep on the couch for hours and snoring. We basically could not use the living room unless we wanted to hang out with him, which we didn't, because he drove us crazy. When we had friends over and did use the living room, he would just sit there awkwardly and silently on his computer while we were hanging out or watching a movie with them. Then, he would try to watch Let's Play videos on his laptop with the volume up and no headphones while we were all there. Or he would fall asleep while we were all watching a movie and snore. He also only laid down and never sat up, so he always took up half the couch. He would invite himself to things we were doing, like we would be leaving to go somewhere, and he would just leave with us and invite himself. He got into some polyamorous relationship with 2 incredibly annoying girls. They would always be over in the living room too, and they spent most of their time discussing their sex life loudly or looking at BDSM porn on his Wii internet browser. He acted super creepy to any female friend we brought over, and as soon as they left, would try to friend them on Facebook and hit on them. He would drink all of our alcohol. He was super passive-aggressive, bitchy, and paranoid. He became convinced that we were legitimately going to try and steal his cats after we made a passing joke about it. He was totally filthy. Wore the same thermal man leggings and t-shirt every day. The bathroom and fridge were disgusting when we moved in, and if we didn't diligently clean them, he would let them become disgusting again. As the days passed, strange occurrences began in the apartment. Unsettling whispers echoed through the rooms at night, and shadows danced on the walls, taking on monstrous forms. Our friends grew wary, insisting they felt an unnatural chill when Dirty Dan was around. One night, while cleaning the neglected bathroom, we discovered a hidden door leading to a dark, mysterious space. We ventured into the hidden chamber only to find a collection of eerie artifacts, occult symbols, and a journal filled with disturbing entries hinting at a malevolent force that Dirty Dan had unknowingly unleashed. The apartment became a breeding ground for supernatural entities, drawn by the chaos and negativity. Dirty Dan's presence seemed to amplify the paranormal activity, and the once mundane roommate troubles escalated into a nightmarish ordeal. As we desperately sought a way to escape the haunted apartment, the lines between reality and the supernatural blurred. Dirty Dan's true nature unfolded, revealing a sinister connection to the malevolent forces that now tormented us. The horror within those walls became inescapable, trapping us in a terrifying web of the occult and the otherworldly. The apartment, once a temporary refuge, transformed into a nightmarish realm where the boundaries between the living and the dead dissolved, leaving us at the mercy of the horrors unleashed by Dirty Dan.